I think I have to go for it though, just because of these short reflectors. So let's see if I'm right about that. And wow, we are right there. So that was some good logic. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another Geoguessr video. It has to be said that I am not the greatest Geoguessr player ever. There are people who on the world map are much better than me, getting, you know, crazy streaks, hundreds of countries in a row. Not really something I'm able to do. However, there is one thing that I am actually well above average at. In fact, one of the best in the world, and have held the world record at multiple times, and that is the Australia map. So we're going to be doing some Australia state streaks today. Do stay tuned. I know my audience retention is normally lower on these, but do stay tuned because there's a lot of ways that I can help you get better scores in Australia. I'll explain my thought process and let us go for the world record. So my current record for state streaks is 44 in a row, and the world record is set by Dennis, who got 68, and then there was Macca, who got 60, and so 44 puts me in third, but I've still got a way to go to get up to those guys. So let's see what's in the first round here, and yeah. So this one immediately strikes me as New South Wales or Queensland. So let's see if we can get in here and see if there's any state-specific clues or anything like that. We've got some little blue and yellow bollards here. Okay, here's a state-specific clue. So when you see school zone signs with an orange border, that means you're in Queensland. So this one would have been a hard round to get otherwise, I feel like. It's probably down near the south here. I'm going to guess maybe in a town near Toowoomba, just because it does get a bit dry once you pass the mountains in Queensland. Yeah, we were nearby there, so a good start to the video. And yeah, always pays to know those state-specific clues. And here's another one. This one's a bit of a tricky little clue, but you can see this little leaf on the lens here. I'd probably need more examples for you to see it clearly, but you can see there is a bit of like a dark spot on this lens. And so we're going east to west here on a fairly tropical looking road, and that leaf actually runs all the way from here all the way to Mount Isa and Cloncurry. So we're going to be somewhere along this road, and over this side it gets a lot drier. The whole landscape turns a bit white, so we're on the green end of things here, and given the road angle, it would make sense for us to be in on something like this. So let's see if we're close here. Okay, it was actually on this little road angle there, but still, 4,000 points is fine, and we move to a state streak of 2. So unfortunately, we have a bit of Gen 1 here, so that's always annoying. My first thought was Victoria here, but we do have a yellow pole, and yellow poles are basically only found in Western Australia, so that actually gives us a pretty easy guess here. I'm just going to go somewhere out there, and even further south actually, but we pull a nice 4,200 points, and we manage to escape a nasty little Gen 1 there. So this one's interesting. Obviously, we have a lot of palm trees, so I'm initially feeling Queensland, but we actually have some Stobie poles here. These are South Australia specific, although they can be found elsewhere. It's basically only in South Australia. So now I'm looking for a town name, because obviously it's nice to get perfect scores and whatnot. I don't see any. So I'm just going to guess somewhere, and with this many palm trees, I'm thinking somewhere down on the Fleurieu Peninsula. So maybe Victor Harbour or Port Elliot or something like that, Middleton. I think I probably like Victor Harbour best, so let's guess right here, looking down on the oval there. And okay, it was actually in Waikerie, so just a very green round along the Murray River, which is the longest river in Australia. So yeah, not bad. We moved to a full country streak. And the next one, we have another interesting border, another orange border on this sign. And this one says Maryborough and Rockhampton. At least I think it says Rockhampton, so that would put us somewhere up in Queensland, and Maryborough is around here. So we're going to be around Maryborough here. So obviously knowing your town names is going to help, but you can see in this landscape, pretty Queensland looking, like all these like very green regrowth trees here are pretty Queensland-like. That's pretty much all you needed though. We're on the A2, so yeah, I think we are somewhere. A2 or A1? I think it might actually be A1. And if we're headed to Maryborough in 30 kilometers, so we should be about here. And okay, we were 17 kilometers away, so I should have clicked a little further south, but still a good score, 20,000 to start us off. So we could also do a hedge mode attempt here, but yeah, that's a good score. And obviously Australia pretty tough. Once you start to pick up some of these clues, it makes it a lot easier. I'm also thinking of doing another Australia tutorial, maybe just for all the different state-specific clues. So let me know if you want that inside the comments. Regardless, we also have some Stobie poles here, so this one is a pretty clear and easy Adelaide. Osborne Naval Shipyard, I feel like that is going to be somewhere out west, obviously closer to the... Oh, here's Osborne, so we're probably going to be on this road here, I dare say. I don't really see it. Okay, it bends up there, so maybe something like that. Not going to really try and 5k it, but we're 300 meters away, so close enough on my books. Next one is Super Green. Okay, so this one is kind of one of these toss-ups between Queensland and New South Wales. It's hilly, very green, tall grass. Tall grass is definitely indicative of New South Wales or Queensland, generally speaking. Very green, lots of trees, and so we're kind of left in a 50-50 here. Obviously, the fact that it's so green would immediately make me think of Queensland, and as I looked in on this bollard, you can see that the reflector is about half the length of the normal Australian red reflector, which goes down probably to where I'm putting the bottom of the top of my mouse here. So I do think that with this shorter reflector, it definitely makes it more likely to be Queensland, and also pretty tall hills as well. So I would say we're probably going to be somewhere up near the Sunshine Coast here, but let's see. And actually ends up being a lot further north in Mackay. So yeah, not really my strongest state, Queensland, but we still managed to land the correct guess. This one's a similar vibe, for sure. Once again, we do have the short reflector, so immediately just thinking of Queensland here again. Long grass. Another thing to notice about this one is that we have these kind of like, instead of like normal lines in the center, normal single dotted lines or normal, double lines, we have these kind of single lines with the rumble strips on them, and those are more common in Queensland, or you can find them in New South Wales and Victoria as well, I believe. Maybe even in South Australia somewhere, but we moved to an 8 streak, so it's gone quite well. Okay, this is a great example of a Western Australia round. We have this very kind of orangish red soil. You have to kind of learn your soil tones, but given that it's this particular kind of browny orange, that's often going to be Western Australia. And you can also see kind of just like a dry landscape as well. Slight hills, but nothing too hilly. So yeah, definitely feeling Western Australia here. Probably just going to be somewhere near Perth, I reckon. And actually, yeah, it actually does make sense to be over this side of the hills because we could see those hills in the background, but yep, still 9 streak works. And here's that leaf again, so great, we got another example of it, and once again, it's very green, so we're going to look at the road angle by using the compass here. It's almost going straight here, and it's almost as green as last time, so I think we're going to be somewhere on this stretch of road here. And okay, right as we turned off from the main highway that goes north to south. Also, it's worth noting that these are all covered in Generation 3. So we only get 18,000 that time due to some tough Queensland rounds, but apart from that, quite nice. Okay, one thing I wanted to mention is that I'm hosting a Australia Masters League, which you can find in the description. It's just a 2-week little league and should be good fun to host. Okay, so we have a little bit of an unclear round here. Obviously, we have a lot of this brown soil again, and a lot of thin trees. A lot of the time in Western Australia, you would have yellow, these yellow poles that we had on the Generation 1 round. We don't have it this time, but I'm still fairly confident that this will be some south of Perth coverage down here in the hills here. It doesn't really look like Western Australia, apart from the fact that we have this red soil. So yeah, I think it could even be quite far south here. Let's see. And a nice little 17 kilometers away on the nearest big road there. So a really good guess, all things considered. And this one is now looking quite typical South Australia. Now I'm trying to think how I would explain this best, because it's kind of hard to... It's just the type of bushes. It's just the type of bushes here that really lead me to believe this is South Australia. Could be somewhere along here. Also could be somewhere along here. I think I kind of like a Coorong round a little bit better here. But anyway, it should just be South Australia because we have this white dirt and these kind of like scraggly trees. So I like that. And yeah, we were along that stretch of road. So you can see, playing pretty well today. I've been practicing a lot of Australia streaks recently, so been playing pretty well. So this one has a few different things about it that are making me question where this is going to be. So we got some blue on the number plate there. Obviously, that may indicate Victoria. I would love to be able to see that sign, but okay. So interestingly, I was looking at this like kind of pole markings. We got yellow and green, so I was thinking New South Wales because of that. However, when I turn over here, I can see through the trees a little blue spot with a white border, and that is only in Melbourne. That is a Melbourne, not only Victorian, but a Melbourne specific clue. And not to mention this little lantern here that's rather long, kind of like the Thai one, except half the length. That's also a Victorian thing to have as well, so feeling confident with Melbourne here, and of course we're there, so very good. This one's another South Australian looking one, and we got this white dirt again. We got short reflectors, which is often typical of Queensland, as I said, but also South Australia. And also looking up in the Generation 2 lens here, you know how you have this like halo around your head, we've got like a little dolphin or leaf-shaped thing, and Sponge, another guy in my community, discovered that this leaf is like 90% of the time when you see it in the Generation 2, it's going to be in South Australia. So given that fact, I kind of like somewhere out here, just in the outback, and it's a little bit further south, but still a decent score. Okay, and here we have another South Australian round. Not only do we have Stobie poles in the background, but also we have the gaps in the outside of the road, which you only find in South Australia and in the Australian Capital Territory. So I'm just thinking we're somewhere up north of Adelaide here, probably headed off to the Flinders Ranges, just because it's a little hilly, not super flat. So let's go there. I was thinking near Corn, actually ends up being, okay, out in the Riverland, so not where I thought it would be, but we still get a 21,500 due to some nice guesses in WA and Victoria, and my South Australian guesses were not that good, but that's okay. So nothing too insane so far, but we've been chugging away quite nicely, and we're on 15 now. So this one's interesting. We have like really yellow dirt. One thing I'll say about this round is that when you see rainy coverage or super cloudy coverage, it's most likely to be Victoria for whatever reason. I mean, you do find it elsewhere as well, of course, but yeah. Also, we have like very green grass here, apart from this yellow grass here, which is interesting. We do have a short reflector here, so it is possible that this would be South Australia. However, looking at the top of this, well, I'm not sure if it's a Stobie pole. I'm not sure if that's one of the South Australian poles. So at the moment, we're really considering between South Australia and Victoria. The fact that it's a bit hilly in the background would make me lean more Victoria here. Also, the overcast nature of the round. The short reflector you can find in other states. It's just more common in Queensland and around there. It does look a lot like, it could easily be like the Millicent or Cape Jaffa area there. I still think I prefer somewhere down here where it gets a bit hilly. There's a lot of rainy coverage around here, so I will just like take a moment longer to consider this. This will be a tough round. If it is South Australia, it's going to be real tough. Maybe I do like SA better though. Looking at it, these both have short reflectors, so maybe we are just going to be right down over here. You know what, this would be a really good guess if I get it. We're going east to west, so we got to find somewhere that would fit. Maybe something like this would fit. I guess so. It looks very coastal as well, so maybe something like this. I mean, the fact that it's east to west is rather concerning, because a lot of the Generation 4 would be going north to south here, obviously. I think I have to go for it, though, just because of these short reflectors. So let's see if I'm right about that. And wow, we are right there, so that was some good logic. I'm happy. I think if I was just playing by myself, going really quickly, I probably would have gone Victoria there, so glad that I thought things out there. Okay, here, this one looks quite a generic New South Wales round, and we actually do have 2 yellow number plates, which are fairly reliable. One thing that I've learnt recently is that the old number plates in Western Australia are actually yellow, so you do have to worry about that. But yeah, this is just a fairly self-explanatory New South Wales round. I kind of like around Newcastle for this one. And okay, it is around Newcastle, so a really nice guess as well. This one, okay, here is a nice little clue. This is more advanced. I doubt many of the people watching this video will know about it. But if you have this little cross on the top of the pole, it's very specifically crossed with like this coil of metal on either end, then you're always going to be in Victoria. I've never seen it elsewhere. And also, a concrete pole is more likely for Victoria as well. Victoria uses about 20% concrete poles as far as I remember, and that's the most out of any state. And also this clue was discovered by Dennis, so big shout outs to him, because that was definitely huge for running Australia. And so we're gonna get a pretty easy round here. I think I see like some hills to the south, so I don't mind guessing near Grampians here. And okay, we are really close once again. So we've been running pretty hot on this round. Definitely enjoying this. So this one's interesting. We've got some pole markings. Looking around, not quite sure yet. A bit of blue on that number plate, interestingly. So maybe Victoria here. Melbourne would make sense. We got a yellow pole there, but I think that's probably baiting. Actually, no, another yellow pole. So perhaps this is indeed Perth. I mean, it would make sense with the blue on the number plate, so fair enough, fair call. Looking around more. We also have a sloped curb here. Instead of 90 degrees, it's got a slight slope to it, and that's also pretty typical for Perth. So now I'm just looking at the poles, making sure they make sense for Perth as well. But yeah, I do see another yellow pole here. Wow, super baity round. We do have a Melbourne bus stop here. So I was almost ready to go Perth with 1, 2, 3 yellow poles, but of course, this Victorian bus stop with the orange section on it, well, it can only be in Melbourne. So yeah, that's actually a tough round, a little bit baity, but we managed to make it through, so let's just get in Melbourne. Yeah, the bus stops are super important to learn. I'll definitely make a refresher of that in my next Australia video if I make it. So here's the next round. Interesting looking. We have the speed limit written on the road, which is definitely something you see most often in New South Wales. Can also be in Queensland as well though, so we've got to watch out for Queensland here. Looking at this pole, no markings that would particularly scream one state rather than the other. And this one says New South Wales. It's a New South Wales private property, so fantastic. This one actually does like give me a bit of a Queensland vibe, so I'm really glad we found that, because otherwise it may have been a tough round to get. So yeah, we are going to go in northern New South Wales here. I would say around Armidale would be a good shout. But let's see. Okay, it's actually southern near Sydney, so a tough round. Definitely looked quite green, but yeah, we end up with 21,000. The first 3 guesses, all the guesses apart from round 5 there were really good, so would have been a really nice score had I nailed it and gone in Sydney. Regardless, we are on a 20 streak now, so we are technically, I guess, like a fifth of the way or something like that, you know, almost, or a bit past the fifth of the way. So we got a yellow number plate here, a white one there. So this one could certainly be like southern New South Wales. This number plate here is a little yellow, but I guess because the sun's shining, it's hard to see. This one kind of reminds me of, it could easily be Sydney, but I kind of like something maybe more south. It does give me southern vibes, so maybe Albury or something like that on the border with Victoria. I don't know. Generation 4. Basically, the yellow number plate is what we're going off of here. Okay, we also have a New South Wales bus stop over there. So this one is like curved around the top with a yellow circle on it. So that's really nice. We're going to go, I think we're actually going to go Albury here just because it doesn't really remind me of elsewhere in New South Wales. So let's see. Okay, it's actually just outside Sydney here. This was in Mossvale, so super green out there, which is rather surprising, but you know, we still get the state. And this one's interesting, on a bridge. Okay, so we do have fairly brown soil here. We have a hill in the background. Interesting pole here. So for me, this one is definitely between Victoria and well, it's between Victoria, New South Wales, and Western Australia. Obviously, we do have this like kind of brown soil. This sign doesn't have yellow, yellow posts, so Western Australia feeling less likely for that reason, I must say. These don't have any yellow on them, so at the moment, feeling Victoria, but this pole may look a little bit more New South Welsh. So this is a really tough round. If we could see this number plate, that would really greatly assist me. Also, keep in mind that they're kind of phasing out yellow number plates in New South Wales, and this coverage is obviously 10 years old, so you're much more likely to see those yellow plates back then. Whereas if you get Generation 4 right now, which is the new coverage, then it's much less likely that you see the yellow plates. You can much more get baited. Anyway, this is a tough round. We got some of that long grass I was telling you about. That may be almost making me want to switch over to New South Wales here, but it's really between New South Wales and Victoria, I think. So just trying to get a sense of this architecture and whatnot. These hills are probably too big for WA. I do think so. So the question is, which side of the border are we going to go here? A super tough round. Would be a shame to end it here. Would be a shame. Looking at this bridge might remind me more of a Victorian bridge, but obviously that's super speculative. I'm not really sure. Do we have anything in the lens or anything? It's very decent Gen 2. Like, I think I'm just going to have to make a decision here. It does remind me more of New South Wales, I think. So I'm just going to have to go for it. Let's see. And okay, it was over the border. And we were near Grampians again. Actually, we could see the Grampians in the distance. So maybe a bit of a silly guess to end it off there. I don't know. That's kind of what you have to make with these Aussie maps. But I think we'll do one more attempt just because I don't think it's, there's plenty more to impart here. And maybe we can go on an insane run. Anyway, we're 100 kilometers away from Sydney here in the blue mountains, I assume. And yes, we are. So a nice easy run there. This time, are these Stoby poles? I think that one is not, but is this one? Okay, that one is not either. So I think we should be on the New South Wales border here. Actually, no. Even though these aren't Stoby poles, I'm pretty sure this is still SA. I'm just trying to remember where it is, though. There's like a strange road out here that doesn't use Stoby poles, I'm pretty sure. Oh, no. Well, thank goodness we didn't get that round after. Anyway, that was right on the border there. Not pleasant. Okay, here's a typical Beatty round between New South Wales and Queensland. This one has rather lower hills. We have like a stilts house here, so I think I will have to go Queensland just because they do many more stilts houses over in Queensland, but this could be over the border again, and it is. Great. So I don't really mind doing that on the first round. Maybe if I had have thought about it for longer, I could have gotten the right run. But anyway, this one, I don't really know. It's just Generation 1. It ends up being in South Australia. So 3 really hard rounds in a row. Glad that wasn't part of a long streak or anything. And let's get back to it. So here we go. Yellow bollard often tells me Queensland, but it's not a foolproof clue. And given that there's not much else going on here, I do like Queensland. Possibility of New South Wales, but we are correct. So good start. Next one. Melbourne. Looks like a Melbourne suburban round. We have a lot of brick houses here. Definitely worth keeping in mind. They like their brick houses in Melbourne. I don't see any yellow plates or anything, so I don't think this is going to be Sydney. I think it's just going to be maybe northern suburbs of Melbourne. Again, we have these concrete poles I was telling you about, and this long lantern. So yeah, almost 100% sure this is Melbourne. Somewhere out near the Yarra Ranges, perhaps. 11 kilometers away, so that's good. Just a very green, nice looking round with this avenue of trees. Definitely screaming New South Wales to me. Unfortunately, no yellow plate there, but yeah, definitely going to be hard to not guess New South Wales here. I would say around the Bathurst region is my top pick. Ends up being further south, but we still get the state. This is a bit of overcast coverage, very green on the grass. This is not as easy as it seems. I initially was definitely feeling Victoria just because of this very like bluish green grass, if you know what I'm saying. The longer I look at it, the more I think it could be anywhere up the coast, but I still think I prefer Victoria here. And it ends up being right down south there, so a good guess in its own right. Next one, country South Australia. We got the white dirt on the side of the road. This one's, I don't know, I just live in South Australia, so it's pretty easy to tell. I want to say, unless it's Victoria. Yeah, okay. That did cross my mind as soon as I made the guess. Okay, so back into it. Why not? I'll do one more. This will be the last streak no matter what happens, okay? So, okay, this one's interesting. A little bit of a yellow plate here. This one is a super Beatty round. If this one's not in New South Wales, I will be a little mad, I must say. I'm just trying to think where I'd put a forest like this. Maybe somewhere over here. I'm not really sure. Okay, ends up being on the coast like that. That's a super tough round. The fact that it was so flat was strange. Okay, here we have some Northern Territory poles, which are fully made of metal and have holes in the bottom. So yeah, that is a pretty easy round. I think somewhere along this road here and along this national park here. I'm not really sure. Okay, ends up being a little further north. This one, we have a lot of like needle leaf trees here, which this is the first time I'm articulating it, but I think they are more common over in the west coast. So we have a train track running along this road as well. This main highway does have a train track to its north, I think. So there are certain parts along this where I think this could be. Let's go there. Okay, ends up being further south here. Just a strange little bit of railway around there. So they just added Generation 4 to the Northern Territory. I think that's what this is going to be. Coolda. Jim Billabong. Billabong is a name for a little like creek or a little dam. Pine Creek. I've not heard of these places, but we have the Kakadu Highway here, so we should be around here. In fact, I think that was the name of what we were looking at, so let's go there. Yep, we were close. So yeah, Kakadu National Park now has Generation 4. This one looks like a country New South Wales to me. Like, we've got this brown dirt that you would see in Western Australia, except it's not quite right for WA. So yeah, it says rural as well, so we know we're somewhere out. We don't have the yellow poles as well, so that's another good clue. Super long light. I think that's quite a New South Wales thing to do. Could be wrong. This could be Queensland. I doubt it, but it could be. So when you're looking in Gen 2, it's great to find a number plate, and I've just located one as I was saying that, so really good tactics if you can be bothered. I reckon Dubbo, or somewhere nearby Dubbo would make sense here. And wow, this was super close to the border. I was going to say Queensland does kind of make sense here, and it ends up being New South Wales just, so the number plate did not bait us. That's pretty lucky, I must say. So here's the next one, white dirt. You guys know what I say about the white dirt? Well, we've also got the sponge leaf, so it makes things nice and easy. Stobie pole, everything checks out, man. North of Adelaide, south of Adelaide. Wow, that's much more south than I thought. Next one, Queensland looking. I must say Queensland looking. This one definitely reminds me of Townsville. Now Townsville, for whatever reason, I don't really know if it's just the Google coverage or whatever, but it has a really dry look to it. I'm not 100% sure yet, but look at all these palms. Definitely feeling Townsville on this one. Yeah, and so we have a yellow bollard as well, as I said, quite common in Queensland, although not only in Queensland. Looking further, another yellow bollard there. Something service group, not going to be legible, but yes. This one should be Townsville or Townsville around there. Do we see any mountains in the background? Because that's what we normally see in Townsville. Unfortunately, we do not. So if we'd normally see them to the south, and barely any. So we're going to have to go somewhere without many mountains. Maybe somewhere out here would make sense. Okay, so it actually ends up being in Blackwater, a much smaller town than I had anticipated. I saw the McDonald's and I thought it must be a bigger town. Actually ends up being near Rockhampton. So maybe I was confusing Rockhampton and Townsville. Yeah, Rockhampton has the bigger mountains, but no, I think Townsville also kind of looks like that as well, to be honest. Next one, rural round, New South Wales or Queensland here. Got like a short reflector, but when the bollard is crinkled like this, the short reflector clue is much less effective. New South Wales would be my first pick here, I must say. We've got a short reflector though, so maybe we have to trust that, like we did last time. If this is in Queensland, it's got to be just right over the border. Just trying to think of a good place I could put this in Queensland. It definitely strikes me more as a New South Wales landscape, I must say. So here's another one of those 50-50s. Unfortunately, that's kind of the way it goes with this. You often lose in Queensland and New South Wales just because they look quite similar. I will just look at these houses, the architecture. Obviously, you can't see any stilts houses, unfortunately. Any power lines? Again, not. So, yeah, just feels like we have to go off the vibe here. I don't know. This short reflector definitely would be more common in Queensland, so I think I have to go for it. Somewhere around Toowoomba, maybe. I don't know. This is tough. Okay, ends up being around Toowoomba, so that's good. Look, if there wasn't the reflectors there, I probably would have just gone New South Wales and been wrong, but we get it. Here is a Melbourne one that I was telling you about, the yellow with the blue square. So those are actually surprisingly useful. We're on a very tight road here, Yarraville. Interesting. I was not expecting to be Yarraville. Where is Yarraville? That's the other question. Should be somewhere out this direction here. Well, this is the Yarra Ranges, so I'm assuming Yarraville is nearby here. Maybe it's further in. I'm not really sure. Regardless, I was with Yarra Junction. Maybe we're like crossing on the railroad here. I don't see the railroad crossing across, unfortunately. But anyway, it looked like something like this, so let's just go there. Okay, ends up being on the other side, so Yarraville is not near the Yarra Ranges. Surprising? I'm sure the Melbourne viewers cringed, but whatever, that's what you gotta do. This one is an easy one. We've got a black marking with white numbers on this pole. That means we're in Queensland, and I think more specifically southern Queensland is where they use that. That's my theory, at least. If this is north, then yeah, well, good, it's not. Around Sunshine Coast it gets really green, so I probably should have gotten that. So the two places it gets really green in Queensland are Cairns and south of Cairns, and like Sunshine Coast, and maybe on the border as well. And it can get really green in New South Wales as well, so that's why, again, why the border is so difficult. But we're on 10 now, going quite nicely. Reserves. This one looks like Perth with the sloped curb here, and we have a yellow pole as well. So this is easy Perth, 11 kilometers away. Great. Next one. Ooh, this one's interesting. Western Australia would make sense again with this like dark soil. I think we're just gonna go for it because there's not much in the way of clues, but this dark soil looks Western Australian. And yes, we're close again, so excellent. This one is interesting. Northern Territory or Queensland, both making sense at this point. We're going east to west, so we have a... okay, so this one actually could be in Western Australia. So we have like a very orange soil over here. We have a black, like a salt and pepper road, like very, very salt and pepper. Floodway. We have hills in the background as well. This is not an easy round. Not an easy round. If we're going east to west here, I'm just trying to think. It wouldn't be along this road. We could be near Alice Springs. That is possible, although strikes me as unlikely. I don't know. And then Queensland. Where would we be in Queensland? It's not an easy round, guys. The floodway is definitely common in Northern Territory and Queensland. There seems to be a lot of places that have the potential to flood. Where in Queensland would I put this? That's the question. The dirt is very red. Pardon me. Floodway. I don't know. Okay, starting to take too long, but I'm really unsure about this one. Western Australia, I don't like too much. I think it has to be between these two. I'm just trying to think of an east-west road that would actually make sense here. Like, we could be like, how east-west are we? Pretty east-west. I think it has to be Queensland. I'm not really sure where. That's the problem, but I think I have to go for it. East to west over here? Could we be in the Muller Ranges? It's possible as well. Maybe that makes more sense. Actually, no, I've convinced myself. It's WA. Let's go. Come on, baby. No, wow. Just a little bit of east-west here on the north to south highway in Northern Territory. So we end on 12. Guys, I'm pushing for that world record. If you want to see me get it, I'll keep grinding and I will eventually get it. Otherwise, if this video doesn't go too well, that's okay. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed me playing at what I'm actually pretty good at, and let me know if you were impressed or if you wanted me to see more, if you want me to do more of this. Anyway, thank you very much for watching all the way to the end of the video too. Big shout outs to everyone who did, and I'll see you guys in a video very soon. Bye bye.